episode 183 of Futures Radio Show, sponsored by CME Group, the world's leading and most diverse futures and options exchange. CME Group's markets help individuals and businesses around the world effectively manage risk. For access to free educational tools and resources for the active individual trader, please visit activetrader.cmegroup.com.
Every day, traders and investors dive in to tackle the ever-changing markets to find opportunity. Futures Radio Show is your number one source for answers to the questions that all market participants want to ask. Veteran futures trader Anthony Crudele sits down with the most influential leaders and top traders in the industry. Now, here's your host, Anthony Crudele.
Hey everyone, before we get started today, I want to thank our sponsors. CME Group, Trading Technologies, RJO Futures, and Top Step Trader. Now today I spoke with Michael Unetich, VP of Cryptocurrencies at Trading Technologies. We began today's conversation by talking about Michael's background in futures and crypto trading. We discussed the benefits of TT now offering Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies on their platform to trade alongside Bitcoin futures. Finally, I asked Michael why TT chose to partner with Coinbase's GDAX versus other spot exchanges and what he thinks about the growth thus far in Bitcoin futures. As usual, thank you all for listening and please enjoy this episode. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hello, Anthony. Good to be here.
It's great to speak with you today, Michael. A lot of exciting things happening right now with TT, cryptos, and of course, futures. But specifically today, we are going to discuss what I call bridging the gap between futures traders and crypto traders. But before we get into that, you have a very interesting backstory as well on how you got your start in the industry. So let's start there, Michael. Tell us how it all started.
Sure. So while I was in college at Villanova University as a senior, I started learning about option trading and was doing a little bit of it from my dorm room. And out of school, I got a job working at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange down on the floor. I was hired by DRW when they were a small firm, and I worked for them for 8 years. It was a great experience, and they were a great firm. After that, I started trading and working for myself in the Eurodollar pit. Prior to that, my only background had been in trading options, and I found that the option background to trade futures gave me a little bit of an advantage over everybody else because they weren't traders in the back month futures pit weren't as comfortable holding inventory, or at least a lot of them were not as comfortable holding inventory as I was. So I traded in that pit for a few years and was kind of caught the move to the screen in 2005 and 6, and I was trading a lot of volume on the screen. And along the way, I talked to my cousin, Rick Lane, who's now, of course, the TT CEO. But I talked to Rick about moving out to Chicago and starting to help me with some electronic market making and trading that had already taken hold on the screen. So as 2007 and 8 went by, we were doing a fair amount of trading on the screen with some market making programs. We thought about transitioning the firm in 2009 as I could kind of see every year that my margin was going up consistently, but the trading P&Ls weren't necessarily doing that. 2008 was a super stressful year. I probably had a lot of gray hairs that year, so it just was becoming not as much fun anymore. So we thought about different things we could do with the technology that we had built. We met with a couple other individuals about combining and building a trading firm. But what we really ended up deciding was that it could be more interesting, possibly more lucrative, possibly less risk to actually go into business as a software vendor with this great software that we had and compete with the likes of TT and others. So we went that route. We launched that business at FIA at the end of 2009. We were in business for exactly 9 months before we did an acquisition deal with TT in 2010. I think that they saw that we were chiseling into their market share a little bit, and they certainly liked the automated trading platform that we had built. It was sort of a DIY algo platform for traders, and I ended up at TT in the summer of 2010. I helped integrate that product into TT's X-Trader platform, and stayed at TT till the end of 2011. At that point, I went off and did a separate software business, not trading related, and then by 2015, I was dabbling back into trading at the end of that year, and taking it more seriously again in 2016, focusing just on the Eurodollars, hoping that the new activity by the Fed would lead to a more volatile market. But when 2017 rolled around and the Fed was not consistent with raising rates, I started developing an interest in crypto.
Well, let's not stop there, Michael. You just mentioned cryptos, and we're going to talk a lot about cryptos today. So continue on that thought. What made you decide to start getting involved in the crypto industry?
So with the cryptocurrencies, I had spent some time outside of the business, outside of trading, and started to dabble back into trading in 2016. And I went back to what I knew, which was trading Eurodollars, Eurodollar spread. But I think, like many people, I was suffering a little bit from the lack of volatility in that market. And by 2017, the Federal Reserve kept disappointing us. Every time we'd get excited about some horizon of all these Fed rate hikes, the Fed would yet again disappoint and do nothing. So in 2017, I started to get a little bit distracted and a little bit interested, and started learning about cryptocurrencies. So I think I did what a lot of people do. I just opened up an account at one of the better-known U.S. Crypto exchanges. Did a couple of trades. Everything seemed to be, the flow of funds seemed to work. I could send money there. I could take money out. I could submit orders. But over time, I started to open up accounts at more and more exchanges. And the consistent thing that I kept seeing was that these exchanges had a subpar, really a user experience not geared for the professional trader. So simple things that we were used to really were lacking in some of these trading platforms, such as just a good user interface so you could see all of your data on one screen, whether it's your orders, your fills, a chart, market data, time and sales. It was really hard to find any system where I could see all those things at one screen, and maybe even have the luxury of modifying a working order in that system. So I started to kind of put together this idea that what was really needed here, what the pain point was the end user experience just wasn't there yet from a trading software and access standpoint. So I started taking some of these ideas to Rick Lane, my cousin, TT's CEO, and started pointing out the big idea that this could be for TT to get into that market.
Well, I, for one, am really glad that you did, and it sounds like you and Rick have had some great success in the past, so I'm very excited to see what you guys put forward here with the crypto side of things on TT. But I want to talk to you a little bit about your transition from working as a trader to then working on the server side, and then back to trading, and then working with a company like TT again. I think that a lot more traders should be doing this. A lot of traders leave the industry after they're done trading and they don't work in the industry. I think it's extremely important. And, kudos to TT for bringing on traders. And I know that they do this not just with you, but in many other instances. They bring in ex-traders to help get insight that you just can't get unless you've been a trader. So I'm curious, what's the transition been like for you from being a trader to now working with a company like TT?
So having a trader background really helps you develop a feel for what the end user really needs. So the input I can give can be things like, here's the pain point that I've already experienced in trading this, or little things that are specific to crypto, such as you can display order quantities out to 8 digits. Well, in looking at these exchange screens and trying to follow the market most efficiently, seeing things like quantities out to 8 digits, to me that's just a lot of noise. So that's just an example of something where we're gonna make that configurable by the user so they can see as many as they want. So it's just little things like that, knowing what problems traders may be feeling on the other end, or things that I can help influence or understand either when they're describing it or hopefully flag it maybe even beforehand.
Yeah, I can't stress enough on how important I believe it is for companies in the futures industry that are servicing traders to look to hire ex-traders. You're just not going to be able to get that kind of insight unless you've been on our side of the fence. So I want to move on a little bit here, Michael, and I want to talk about this deal between Coinbase's GDAX and TT. It's a first of its kind. And as I said at the beginning of the show, it's bridging the gap between futures traders and cryptocurrency traders. And there's a lot of reasons why I think this is important. But one thing that I think that sticks out the most is something that I mentioned to Rick Lane back in October at FIA and once again in November at JFLC, is having Bitcoin next to Bitcoin futures on the same platform. I don't know of any other company that is doing that. I believe you guys are going to be the first to do it. Of course, proprietary softwares can create that if they want to. But on the commercial side, I believe you guys are the first to be able to do this. So I think that this is very exciting for both crypto and futures traders. Michael, talk to us about the benefits to having futures and the underlying side by side on the same screen.
Well, I think having TT involved in the cryptocurrency world is an important step for that industry because with it, TT brings a strong reputation. We bring a big professional customer base with us. This is a customer base that we believe has interest in trading this asset class, and to be able to do that on one login and to be able to view the markets all on the same screen. I think that's going to open up a lot of interest from futures traders to get into trading crypto, such as trading the basis between the spread between the cash and the futures. I think that TT helps bring a stamp of approval into crypto trading for some of them. A lot of futures traders were a little hesitant, maybe even afraid to get involved into trading crypto cash. So we can help educate, we can help get them started. Similarly, hopefully it also bridges the opposite way, which is bringing crypto traders over into the futures market. And the irony there is a lot of the crypto spot traders are deathly afraid of the unknown of getting involved and opening up futures accounts. So with a little bit of education on both sides, I think they'll both realize that the markets are maybe more similar than they realize, and they're great to trade between each other. And TT can bring some automated trading tools to help ease that process, so you don't just have to be click trading. You can, for example, just set a differential between the cash and the futures and have an automated program that can either be making markets in one to hedge in the other, or just waiting for an opportunity where certain prices are available, and it could send orders into the market to accomplish your objective.
Yeah, I agree with all of what you said, and it's what makes it so exciting from here to see what happens. So I want to move on a little bit and talk about your influence into TT's decision to move into the cryptocurrency space. I know that you and Rick are cousins. I know that you guys have had great success working together in the past. But talk to us about how much influence you had on TT's move into cryptos.
I would say I probably helped accelerate it, but it was certainly something that they had been hearing, I think, consistently throughout 2017. It started kind of probably as a murmur, and as we reached the summer, I think it became more consistent. So when I started getting excited about the idea of the opportunities of potentially helping TT, I think that that was the point where having the right relationship did help. And kind of with the theme I had, which is, hey, I'll drop everything today and come over and help get this off the ground and be fully focused on it. That was maybe the kind of the final straw for them, which is it solved the problem of really how to get started in it. And don't get me wrong, I saw a lot of potential and had a lot of ideas about potentially trading it myself. But having done the trader service, back to trader thing a couple times, I actually saw a bigger opportunity and quite possibly more enjoyment out of doing a project like this successfully for TT, more so than just sitting around staring at screens trading for myself. I've said before, there's that old phrase in trading: there are old traders and there are bold traders, but there are no old bold traders. You could probably put me in that category. I kind of feel like my time staring at screens is a little behind me, and this sounded like a lot more fun and a lot more interesting to try to bring capability like this to the masses.
So one thing I wondered when I first saw this announcement was why TT partnering with Coinbase and GDAX? Why not partnering with one of the other spot exchanges? What stood out to you guys that Coinbase and GDAX was the right partnership?
Well, from the TT side, Coinbase really stood out for a couple reasons. We felt that they made a great fit with TT and would make a great partner because they're the number one most trusted brand in crypto. GDAX is the volume leader in the U.S. They have the most institutional customer base. They take their security very seriously. In fact, they keep 98% of their crypto assets offline in security storage. They provide FDIC coverage for cash balances. And to the benefit of our customer base, they're a component of the index that's the basis for the CME futures contract. So with all those things, in mind, we felt like we almost couldn't go any other way, and that they would make a great fit for us.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the show so far, but I want to pause and thank one of our sponsors, Trading Technologies. I started using TT in the year 2000, and I love it. It is by far the best trading platform I have ever used, and I've tried a lot of them. With TT, you can trade the global markets from virtually anywhere in the world. They are the world's fastest commercially available futures trading platform. I highly suggest you go try out TT, especially because you can try it for free. Just go to tryttnow.com and set up your account. So far, we've talked about a lot of the positives and the benefits of this partnership between TT and Coinbase's GDAX. But as someone who's been a trader and in businesses over the years, with any new venture, there's always roadblocks. It's never just smooth sailing. So I'm curious, what are some of the challenges that TT has faced by getting into this new asset class with cryptos?
There's been a couple challenges. Some are slight challenges for the customer base of having to have a slightly different process getting involved, and some of it's more related to making TT work in this market. So as far as the outside challenges, onboarding is a little bit different. To trade crypto, you're completely bypassing your FCM, so you actually have to go directly to the exchange, open up an account, which can take a little bit longer than people expect. And then the user setup will be a little bit different. So because there's no FCM, an admin at a firm, or if they're an individual trader, that individual will be completely in control of his TT limits. And the ability to create sub-accounts will come down to the firm's own internal admin. And then as far as TT is concerned, things like fractional order quantities are a whole new concept. I don't think we've ever connected to a market before where you could trade a quantity that's not a whole number integer. So there was that to deal with, and then related to that, how do we display that, or how do we consolidate those quantities if you don't want to see all those decimals? The fact that crypto never sleeps, so it's open 24/7. That's a new thing for TT, so that impacts both our system, because there's really no concept of end of day, but it also will impact our personnel as well. So Saturday support, Sunday support will be something that we'll have to do for the first time. So all these things are all part of some of the considerations we've had to make here as we're approaching our launch date, and They're different. None of them are insurmountable. So we're just mostly trying to figure out the best way to go about each of those things.
Yeah, you read my mind. I mean, those are the two things that I was very curious as to see how TT was going to handle this. Number one, you have markets now that are 24/7. So Saturdays at midnight Eastern, they're open and they never close. So I was just wondering how support and all that was going to be for that. And then secondly, I was thinking about the decimals because of the fractions and all that and how that would look on TT. So it sounds like you guys have all of that figured out and ready to go. So once again, very exciting. You spoke about the launch. And right now as we record, it's February 12th. When do you expect this to be on the platforms, ready to trade cryptos?
We're still on target to launch in the month of March, and for a trader to be ready on day one, they'll have to already have an account at Coinbase's exchange GDAX. That's one reason that we announced this in advance of our launch date, is so that people and firms did have time to get an account set up. Naturally, they'll have to have a TT account as well, and then there'll be an easy process where they link the two. There's a couple of API keys within GDAX's settings that they can copy paste right into the first screen that you'll see when you go in to trade crypto at TT. But other than that, it'll be just another exchange listed on the TT Market Explorer that lists traders' exchanges. There'll be no extra charge for people that are already TT customers. It'll just be another exchange, another asset class.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, if I'm an existing futures trader using TT and I want to add cryptos to my TT, I have to go to Coinbase, open up an account, fund it, and then from there, I get the information to then go and add to my TT.
Yes, that is correct. We are also considering providing a crypto-only version of TT that would include all of the benefits of TT, including charting analytics, algo with ADL, and more. For that and other TT crypto updates, I'd recommend people go to ttcryptotrading.com to keep in touch with the progress that we're making.
Great info, Michael. Thank you. Now, I want to move on and talk a little bit more about futures. I mean, this is Futures Radio Show, so I want to talk about Bitcoin futures specifically. Now, I know it's only been a very short time since Bitcoin futures have been launched, but what do you think about the growth thus far of Bitcoin futures?
Well, I believe the volume is growing, and I think some of that is a little bit out of the control of the exchanges, whereby there's demand that isn't actually being met right now. Some of the Tier 1 FCMs are still not supporting the Bitcoin futures. I think that'll change over time. In fact, I think that TT being involved will help influence that. And I don't mean that TT is going to go be knocking on the doors of the FCMs, but rather I think the customers who use TT will be demanding the ability to use TT to trade the Bitcoin futures. I think that the FCMs are also getting a little bit of a feel for the volatility of the market. I think it's been relatively contained and probably something that they're becoming more comfortable with. I think as the exchanges study these futures more, you'll see them potentially come out with some other offerings. So whether that would be maybe they'd consider a mini contract, or maybe something like a more narrow bid-ask could be interesting, or something that I think everybody would find interesting, which is futures on more different cryptos. Could also be pretty popular. And over time, I think that the Tier 1 FCMs will come around, and I think this will be a great product by the futures exchanges that accomplishes for a lot of traders exactly what they look for in a futures contract, which is a way to hedge their positions.
Demand always seems to speak for itself, especially in our industry. And whether traders want a mini version of Bitcoin futures or they're going to want options, I'm sure if there's a lot of customers demanding it, the exchanges are going to provide it, products for us to be able to trade. And once again, I think we're just getting warmed up in this crypto industry on the future side. So I think a lot of things are going to be added and changed as time goes on. One final thought before we get into rapid fire segment for today. What other technologies, services, or plans does TT have in the pipeline or even currently available that could be especially helpful to the crypto traders?
Currently available, TT in the short term will have a fixed API for crypto trading. We have the Score surveillance system, which is a machine learning system that TT acquired by way of their acquisition of Neuralink in October of 2017. That's a product that could be used by either trading firms or exchanges, and it helps identify bad actors in the market. It can provide detail about different market behavior such as spoofing or even just statistical data such as if a market maker is meeting market maker obligations. Other services TT could provide, because we do have plans to potentially go beyond just connecting to centralized exchanges in crypto like we do in our core business. We could white label a front end, like we talked about. The front end software systems of a lot of these exchanges have a lot to be desired in some cases. So that's another service that TT is out there and can talk about when we do meet with different exchanges. I think that there's a lot of directions TT can go in crypto, and we're looking forward to following some of those paths as time goes on.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting to hear that you mentioned Neuralink. I've had Neuralink on the show, and I know that TT acquired Neuralink in 2017. I thought that was going to be huge for futures. I really didn't think too much about that for the crypto spot traders, but you're saying they're going to be able to use the Neuralink AI technology for crypto?
Well, there's a couple hundred crypto exchanges around the world, and I would say for sure most of them have nothing near what they probably will want to have in place, something similar to what a major established exchange has in place as far as just gathering data and monitoring the behavior of their customers. So we think it's something that has the potential of being the industry standard in crypto, and it's certainly another pain point, we believe, for exchanges right now.
Very cool. Excellent insight so far today, Michael. But we're not done yet. I have some rapid fire questions if you're ready for those.
Sure, go for it.
All right, everyone. Our rapid fire segment is brought to you by Trading Technologies. Access the global markets from virtually anywhere with TT. They are the world's fastest commercially available futures trading platform. And coming March 1st, trade cryptocurrency spot and derivative markets side by side for the first time. For more information, visit tradingtechnologies.com. Michael, first question. What trader has influenced your life the most and why?
I wouldn't say there's any one certain individual that's the answer to that question. In each pit I've been in, each product I've traded, there's always been somebody that was the most established or the best example of how to trade that product. So I'd say it's varied over time, kind of depending on what part of my career the focus would be.
What was one of the hardest things that you've had to overcome in trading?
I'd say dealing with a losing position was always one of the hardest things. As a market maker, you end up putting on a lot of inventory, and what you thought was a good price one day could end up you could end up getting a really, really good price in the days after that. So at some point, you have to decide when you're either just wrong or you've hit a point where you just have to get out. So I'd say the hardest thing was just deciding at what point you just start blasting and get out. And I always kind of felt like, regardless of what the loss was, once you've done that, a great burden had been lifted off of you, and you were sort of just free to trade again.
What's your favorite book about trading or the markets?
Crypto, Digital Gold is a fantastic book. It's as far as I know, it's one of the only real in-depth accounts of the history behind Bitcoin. Traditional trading in markets, I'd say that Market Wizards 2 was influential for me at the time when I was first getting interested in trading, but more of a favorite would be Reminiscences of a Stock Operator.
What's your favorite movie or TV show about trading or the markets?
Fictional accounts of trading I just really don't get into and enjoy those too much. So I'm not the guy that sits around and watches Billions. And though I do think Trading Places was a relatively amusing movie. A couple things I would recommend. There's a documentary, or there's a piece on YouTube about a session that Charlie D held for a bunch of traders at his clearing firm that somebody posted on YouTube that I think was spectacular. In the crypto world, I think the Netflix documentary that's now available on YouTube called Banking on Bitcoin is fantastic. Even my young kids watch that, and they kind of enjoyed the who is Satoshi aspect, the mystery, the almost caper like story that is behind the history of Bitcoin.
What's the best piece of advice that you've received about trading or the markets?
The best piece of advice, and one that I would probably also tell people, is don't try to get rich quick. Trading is a marathon, not a sprint. It's a career. It's not a scheme. I always functioned as a market maker, so being a market maker is all about hitting singles and doubles and being disciplined, and that's how you build a career, not by taking a huge amount of risk, and that's how you survive in this industry as well.
Final question for today, Michael. If you weren't involved with trading in the markets, you'd be doing what?
Well, I did leave the business for 4 years. I was involved both doing some angel investing and working with a software app development company in telecom. Telecom is an extremely interesting industry, massive global market in hyper-growth. And at the end of the day, just like in trading, you're just focusing and spending time trying to solve end-user problems and figure out how to build a great scalable business around that. So I'd probably be back in one of those two types of businesses if I wasn't back involved in trading.
Michael, where can people find you on Twitter, and give us a website to check out?
Sure. The TT website is www.tradingtechnologies.com, and my own personal Twitter is CHIMIKEU. So that's Chai Mike U.
Fantastic insight today, Michael. I think we're all going to look back at this time and say that TT helped bridge the gap between futures and crypto traders. So very exciting times, and I know that there's going to be a lot more to talk about going forward. So I hope that you'll come back and join me again on Futures Radio Show.
Great, Anthony. It was great being here. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Futures Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for myself or my guests, please visit futuresradioshow.com and sign up to be a premium member for free. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes.